All right, so today we're gonna take out the transmission mount. I'm gonna replace it with a new OEM one. And so what I need to do first is just take out the battery, take out the intake box, and just start loosening the bolts. So that's what I'm gonna get started on. All right, so I've removed the intake box as well as the battery. And so that's gonna give me access to this transmission mount here, which I plan on replacing today. This is the part, and pretty much, if I open it up now, part number being 50805 S7C013 is the OEM part number for the transmission mount, motor mount, and that's what we're going to be replacing. So let me go and open this up, and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. All right, so this is it. This is out. This is the motor mount that I'm going to be replacing. It's a brand new one. I'm going to keep the transmission bracket, the metal bracket there, but I can't access the side bolts, the 3 bolts on the bottom here, these 2 bolts here. I can't access it through that side, so I'm going to have to take off the main mount, take off this center bolt first, slide that out, and then I'll have access to the main 3 bolts here that I need to disconnect from the old one and then reinstall for this one. All right, really quickly, I have the jack stand braced against the transmission. I put it up on jack stands just to get a little more clearance because the car is lowered. And so we have the jack stand just bracing it up against with a little rubber piece in to prevent it from scratching. But that's what you just need to just put a little support for the transmission as you take off the motor mount. All right, now that we've braced the transmission, we can get started on removing the bolts. We're gonna start with the 2 nuts with the deep socket. And we're gonna use a breaker bar. All right, I've broken through, and it should just come out pretty easily at this point. These are torqued around 40 to 44 foot-pounds. I'm gonna double check the specs when I put it back, but that's how much force you're gonna have to deal with when removing these bolts, give or take some age on the car. So those, it might be a little tighter as you're taking it off, but it's roughly around 44 foot-pounds, so that's what you're gonna be trying to use the torque wrench for. All right, that's bolt or nut number 1 right here. And this is the second nut itself. Next thing we're gonna do is gonna loosen the top transmission bolts. That one's a little tighter, but I got it loose. All right, we have a 10-inch extension with 17mm deep socket, and we're easily able to use a breaker bar to just get that loose. All right, we have the long bolts here. All right, so the hardest part of taking this motor mount off is not the bolts we've taken off, but actually the 2 bolts on the side. We're gonna need a very skinny, kind of extra long wrench, but we're also gonna have to take out the battery tray because it's in our way. So we're gonna do that now. And taking off the battery tray is as simple as these 2 bolts here, and that should just kind of free up the battery tray so we have a little bit more room back there. All right, so we were able to remove the battery tray. It involved actually the 2 bolts at the top, but there's actually 2 more at the bottom. You have to take one off on this side, but then you can actually just slide you can see where I'm zooming in, you could just loosen that bottom bolt and then just slide the battery cover up, and it'll just kind of take it out. So we're good to go there. And so all we need to do is just take that main bolt off now, which we're gonna attempt to do with 17. All right, we're gonna take off the two hard to get bolts at the bottom of the transmission mount, and we're gonna use this extra long 17mm ratcheting set. And so this is gonna make it easier because it helps us loosen it and we don't have to take it off. I'm gonna slide the extra long 17 right against the side there, and now I'm zooming out, just gonna pull. And it's loose, makes life a lot easier. And all we need to do now is just kind of take out both the bolts, and we should have the transmission mount removed from the car. So I can probably just remove the bolts now by hand. See how rusted they are. Probably just all that water just hitting it over time. 17. Take out this top one here. All right, so last one out. Now we can just simply remove the old one. And I'm just gonna do a little cleanup here, and then we're gonna reinstall everything. All right, so we're gonna install everything now. You can see here we've just cleaned up the surface area. I took a little shot vac and just kind of cleaned up the dust underneath the battery tray and just wiped down where the motor mounts could be. We're gonna change it out with this new motor mount here, and we're gonna change out the hardware. So new motor mount, new hardware. All right, so I'm just gonna guide the new motor mount in, lift up that wiring harness, and then from here we're just gonna put the new bolt in. All right, so we have the bolts in. I've been hand screwing them in to make sure they're not cross-threaded because it is mounted to the chassis and you don't want to strip anything there. But we're pretty much in, so I'm just gonna tighten everything down, and we're gonna just put all the bolts back and we should be good to go. So it's pretty much tighten these 3 bolts, 44 foot-pounds, put the 2 nuts and the 1 bolt back on the transmission bracket, put that long bolt back in, put the battery cover on, and everything should be good to go. So right before I tighten the bolts, I just want to look up the torque specs. And based on this diagram, we want these 3 bolts to be at 40 pounds as well as that one there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and we should be good. So I just have one more at 40 foot-pounds, and it's gonna be the center one here. Set that at 40. All right, and we're gonna do the rest of them. So we have these new nuts here. Transmission motor mount has been replaced. You can see here it's all back together. 3 new bolts connecting it to the chassis, one long bolt connecting to the bracket, and then changed out the 2 nuts as well as the bolt there that connects it to the transmission itself. The car's back on its wheels and everything's back from the battery to the intake. So that's pretty much completes the installation of the RSX transmission motor mount. Give it a little OEM refresh there. I still have one more installation to do, which I'm gonna do when I pick up a new motor mount. This one here, it's still working, but you can see it's starting to tear, so I'm gonna need one eventually. I've already changed the back, the front, and now this transmission one. So one more thing to do there, and then that completes my kind of motor mount upgrade. Thanks for watching this channel, watching the builds, and watching the RSX kind of come to life again. More to come on that soon, and talk later.